Welcome, Luke.
Hi there. Thanks for having me back at AWE. My name is Luke Ritchie, and I'm going to talk to you today about enhanced locations. I want to start with just a little bit of background about the studio I work at. So for about 8 years or so now, I've been running XR and interactive across our 3 studios, Los Angeles, London and Sydney, and I'm based in the Los Angeles office. We're predominantly working XR, creating creative experiences for technology companies and film studios, and we also do product development in the XR space as well. And we've had some really notable projects over the last sort of 5 years in this space, especially during the last few months. It's been exciting seeing everyone play with our Google search animals and the storytime features we've done for Facebook's portal, and other fun characters like this one. This was Hot Stepper, who is a wayfinding guide to anywhere in the world in AR. Last year, I spoke about the future of live experiences with AEG, who are the owners of LA Live, which is this incredible space in Los Angeles where live sports kind of meets entertainment. And I wanted to speak about an exciting new technology kind of dubbed the mirror world or the AR cloud. And it's this idea of a digital twin, a digital copy of a real location, where using your mobile phone, we would be able to know exactly where you are with a high degree of accuracy. And what's exciting about this technology is that in the remit of AR, you can begin to think about what kind of entertainment and service experiences might be possible with this technology. So we spoke about a range of different ideas, all conceptual, but ways in which, the future of live experiences would be changing. And as I said, at the time, I didn't have examples of this because the technology is extremely early and no one quite knew what this looks like. So it's a kind of pleasure to be able to come back to AWE in 2020, but virtually, to show you what that looks like and talk more about it. So I'm going to play a video now. I'd love you just for a second to spot LeBron standing on top of the Microsoft building there, and we'll roll the next video. Okay, so everything you just saw is real-time rendered through a mobile phone. It's a 80-foot volumetric character, celebrity, photoreal celebrity climbing out of the architecture of the stadium. This was a project that came out after about 1.5 years of R&D, working very closely with Samsung. And with our technology partner at the time, which was Scape Technologies, who have been recently acquired by Facebook. What we were trying to do was to bring to life some of the ideas that I mentioned last year at AWE inside a notable location that would support the technology, the power of 5G, and then augmented reality. The AT&T Stadium, such a kind of fascinating, iconic building. And we got to explore 4 different kinds of proof of concepts for what this technology would allow. And today I'm excited because I want to kind of talk through a few of those with you. The the first thing to get your head around is how the kind of technology works. And the way I'd like to sort of broach this is in sort of two parts. I think of being able to locate your device as being part one, and then being able to augment that space as sort of part two. The first part is the positioning technology. So the first thing that we need to do is create this digital map of the world. So in the background here, you can see a point cloud of the front of the stadium. And I'm just going to play this video to show you the moment of what's called relocalization. This is the moment where your phone automatically recognizes where it thinks you are to centimeter accuracy in the space of about between 2 to 3 seconds. The volumetric player here puts his hands on the architecture of the building and then climbs out of it. The way in which he fits his arms on top of the architecture of the building is actually the second part, which is all to do with building a three-dimensional map. So we use the same data, the same photogrammetry data to build a 3D model that we can have in engine. And that allows us to then place the augmented characters, in this case, the football player, in that location, and then allow for things like occlusion and the sort of magical idea of his hands pulling him out of the architectural struts of these screens. So it's these two kind of fundamental building pieces of position and then a three-dimensional map for placing content. And now I'm just going to show you how we applied that to entertainment. There are a few different entertainment experiences, but the one I wanted to pick is a game called Time Tackle. So a lot of dwell time in stadiums is in the pre-game and then during halftime. So we thought it would be pretty stunning if we could build a game that you could play from any seat in the stadium. So whether you were literally on the field or in the nosebleeds, you could open up the phone and in a couple of seconds, you could be playing a competitive game. So in Time Tackle, all you have to do is just tap the screen at the right moment to dodge the robotic football player. These characters are around 80 foot high, and you can play, I think, with 3 or 4 rounds. And at the end, there's a scoreboard. And the scoreboard is public and competitive. So the idea is throughout the day, everyone tries to beat the top score. And this proved to be hugely popular, especially in the pre-game. We had really high metrics through there and good engagement. And really, this is just really the first experience of in-stadium games that we're able to offer. So I'm just going to play a little video to show you what that looked like. So the next area I want to talk about is the different kinds of services that we can begin to offer. We've never had this technology in our life, so we're all learning here. But certainly, we're excited to explore things like contextual information. So that's position. That's taking information and positioning it to a geo-coordinate, and that will allow for us to do some pretty interesting things in wayfinding and then overlaying content at the right moment as you might navigate a location. The particular feature I want to talk about is actually to do with AR stats. So we were excited to make this possible. This is, my understanding is this is the first ever example of mobile-based AR stats running in the stadium in real time. We worked with Sports Radar for the data, And again, from anywhere in the whole stadium, at any point, you can have a look at the field and it'll overlay update current real-time data. I'm going to show you a little video of what that looks like. So here you can see live AR stats being overlaid the field. It was an exciting moment to make this technically possible. So this is AWE. I feel I should have an opinion on where this technology is going next. So I just wanted to put together a few thoughts as we go into the rest of 2020 and into 2021. So the positioning technology, the visual positioning technology that I've been showing, people are beginning to use this in smaller use cases, which is customarily called kind of cloud anchors, which is a smaller area that it can be mapped and understandable. I think engineers are beginning to, creative engineers are beginning to adopt this more and more. So I think over the course of 2020, you'll begin to see this technology implemented in more projects. Since this project came out, we've been working on more stadiums, palaces, and museums, doing very similar things. So mapping large areas and thinking about what kind of experiences and utilities we can build on top of them. So I think over the course of the next year or so, yes, more locations will come online. They'll technically be private, private to the app that they're on, or private to the company that wants to build them. But there's certainly going to be more locations going online. Because of this, I do think that there are platform opportunities that will be accelerated by 5G. So right now, AR is still run by a lot of the big tech companies and social media companies. But I do think with this technology and with 5G, there will be new startups into this space. And I think that's exciting for the technology. I also think there is going to be consumer growth in geotagged contextual data. So I do think you are going to see more and more games and experiences and utilities where people get used to tagging a specific location, you know, not just a GPS coordinate, an actual VPS coordinate with information. So it might be that you take a photo and then you leave it where you took it, and then your friends can then discover that photo. Or it might be that when you walk past the restaurant, you just want to know if any of your friends liked that restaurant or what they ate there, and you can just point your phone at the restaurant and receive that data. So I think consumers are going to get more and more used to actually assigning data to geo coordinates, and that is, once that takes off, that will be a big trigger for more and more cities going online at scale. And then lastly, eyewear. I think that we're obviously still a few years from some of the big tech companies maybe releasing their new products, but certainly we are testing this space, and a lot of the experiences and utilities that we're thinking of that are made that much better by always-on eyewear. So it's going to be exciting to begin to port and adapt this technology to work on exciting new hardware capabilities. So I'm looking forward to that over the course of the sort of next year or so. And with that, that's the presentation over. I just want to thank AWE for having me talk, and of course answer any questions there might be.
Hi, Luke.
Hi there.
Hey, thanks for that. That was great. Really appreciate your presentation. We've got a ton of questions actually from the audience. I'm going to start with one. You know, in what you're describing here, obviously the combination of mobile AR and 5G providing the contextualization aspect, right? The stats is a great example of that. Now, you're talking about it in the context of entertainment, be it sports or concerts or other things. How about in retail or other places? I mean, this seems prime for that.
Absolutely. I think, I mean, ultimately it'll affect every industry and every single place that we go to. Certainly with eyewear adoption, which I mentioned at the end, that comes commonplace. Most new eyewear products are really being designed to only show you information when you need to see it. So your examples make sense to me. And obviously tagging data to location in store so you can find your way around and find what you're looking for is a given, and there's certainly people working on that. I think where things begin to sort of visually change, at least, is with the adoption of 5G. The holograms that we put at Dallas Cowboys Stadium are about 7 gigs. So that's 7 gigs that stream to your phone instantly. So I think visually it'd be quite breathtaking. The ability to put some arrows on the floor and navigate to you somewhere is very real now. That's why I think, again, 2020 will be probably a slowish year, but certainly new products will come into this space that will offer those services.
Absolutely. I think there's a fine line, right, between too much content, too much experience, too much gamification in the grand scheme of things. So what would you say, how would you draw that line? I mean, so you start adding, wayfinding arrows and maybe gamify that, and then there's content around, and then there's sort of stats and contextualization. It becomes a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there's a famous film, short film by a friend of ours, Ritchie, called Hyper Reality, that everyone is aware of, and I think he beautifully put together the dystopian future of what that might look like. So I think we're all designing against it. I think that's the key. Audience will ultimately decide, right? Like they'll tell us what they think works and doesn't work, but designing for things to be contextually aware is the most important. Like I should only deliver you content because I can tell from the situation that you're in that you need to see it. Mobile phone is one thing, but eyewear is a completely different beast. I certainly don't want something unnecessary in front of my eyes. I do think that there will, just by nature of it, gamify kind of things that are a bit frustrating and annoying, just to simplify things. Wayfinding is an interesting one, because I don't see wayfinding on your phone being a particularly big thing, but I think it will almost be the sort of top 3 app in eyewear. Why not gamify that? That could be a lot of fun, if I have to find somewhere with some difficulty. So yeah, I think ultimately the audiences will sort of decide what in that space, but there is a fine line. We've been focusing a little bit more on high traffic areas, so stadiums and palaces and museums and other areas where 5G will be one of the first places that it'll be active, but also where people are looking for entertainment. So our hope is to kind of design products that we think fit, within that kind of area.
Great. And do users need to download an app, for example, in the stadium example that you showed us? Was there an app? Was it your app? Was it the Dallas Cowboys app? Or was it mobile web AR?
So that particular project, can you believe it was almost 9 months ago? There no one had 5G or phones really that were beginning to support 5G. So there you were handed a phone that had an app running on it. It's a pretty lightweight app because a lot of the content was streaming over the 5G. So there's some positive notions there. What we're looking at now is integrating into existing apps. It's complicated to do some of this in browser-based AR or social media-based AR for the moment. That will begin to obviously change. So for now, some of the very high visual content is really specific to an app. But we're releasing some work over the next 3 to 6 months that's just integrating into existing apps. And in that way, it should just feel like a kind of new feature or a kind of a rich camera lens inside an app you already have.
Yeah, that makes sense. How challenging was the in-arena experience for non-tech savvy or first-time AI users?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I think we're all trying to figure out smart UX plays to make that as effortless as possible. One of the things that the technology does, which I think is kind of critical and a key piece of this, is that I know where you are, and I know where you are to about a centimeter accuracy. So with the experiences we built there, we just asked you to point in a direction, and the minute the minute you start to look, the technology within we were about 2 seconds, and we kind of hid the 2 seconds through some onboarding screens. So really, when the camera loaded, the content loaded. So all anyone has to do is just look, somewhere, and you'll be delivered that content. So that, and that'll be true of eyewear too, which is super interesting because it simplifies the UX. You didn't have to kind of create a marker. You didn't have to sort of look around. It just loads. So there's some really exciting things about that. At the same time, in a mainstream way, we still have to design AR to work for people that are non-technical, and I think that has challenges irrelevant of this particular project.
Wonderful. Luke, thank you so much for joining us today. This was great.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. Great.